Hi everyone, how are you? Welcome to our session for today. So, how's your research going? Okay, so previously, last session, we have already discussed the introductory parts of your research. So, you have your introduction already, you have your statement of the problem, hypothesis, framework, significance of the study, and definition of terms. So, for today's session, i-discuss naman natin yung remaining topics or remaining parts na kasama sa inyong research proposal. Okay? So, we will discuss discovering review of related literature and studies, classifying research designs, qualities of a good research instrument, determining the sampling design and size, and tips for developing questionnaires. So let's start with review of related literature. The objectives are first to describe related literature and studies, then to locate sources of related literature and studies and enumerate the characteristics of related literature and studies. So, review of related literature o yung tinatawag natin na RRL. So, the review of related literature is where the researcher needs to view write-ups, readings, and studies related to his or her present study to determine the similarities and differences of the findings between the past and the present studies. So here sa RRL ninyo or sa review of the related literature, you will look for write-ups readings. So pwede siyang mga articles, mga journals, mga previous researches na related dun sa study or dun sa research na ginagawa ninyo. So here, you will look for the similarities and differences ng study between the past and the present studies. Okay? So RRL also provides the researcher with background information regarding the aspects which have been studied or not been studied. So sa RRL, makikita nyo rin yung mga naging study or researches na ng previous writers or previous authors, previous researchers, and kung ano pang mga variable or anong mga aspect pa yung hindi nila napag-aaralan. Okay? So in a research paper, the RRL is divided into two parts. We have related literature and related studies. However, sa paper ninyo, in your researches, combine literature and studies into one long RRL. Okay? Then, okay, so now we have related literature versus related studies. When we say literature, this is defined as any written material such as books, journal, magazine, novel, poetry, yearbook, and encyclopedia are considered as literature. So itong mga to, literature siya lahat, considered as literature siya. On the other hand, studies refer to inquiries or investigation already conducted to which the present proposed study is related or has some bearing or similarities. So, ang example naman ng studies natin ay yung mga published or unpublished manuscripts, mga theses, and dissertations. Okay? Yun yung pinagkaiba ng studies and literature, ha? So, related literature or studies can be classified as first, local. So, if inquiry was conducted in the Philippines, local siya. And kapag sa foreign lands naman or sa ibang bansa, then that's foreign. Okay? So, characteristics of related literature and studies. First, the surveyed materials must be as recent as possible. So, kapag hahanap kayo ng RRL ninyo, yung references na kukunin nyo as much as possible kung may makikita kayo, yung pinaka-recent researches or recent references. Okay? So, materials reviewed must be objective and unbiased. So, yan. So, fact-based siya, unbiased siya. Okay? Material surveyed must be relevant to the study. So, relevant siya dun sa ginagawa ng study, hindi lang basta reference siya. Dapat yung makukuha yung RRL, may significant siya dun sa study ninyo. Okay? So, surveyed materials must have been based upon genuinely original and true facts or data to make them valid and reliable. Okay? So, tignan nyo to, fact. Hindi pwedeng kung saan lang kinuha yung information. Dapat fact siya and true yung mga data. Genuinely original also. So reviewed materials must not be too few nor too many. Sa research ninyo, gather 10 references for your RRL or review of the related literature. Okay? 10 references ang required para sa inyo sa study ninyo. So, sources of related literature and study. So, pwede nyo dito kunin. Puwedeng kayong kumuha sa mga books, encyclopedias, almanacs, and other similar references. Puwede rin kumuha sa mga article published in professional journals, magazines, periodicals, newspapers, and other publications. Puwede rin sa mga manuscripts, monographs, memoir, speeches, letters, and diaries. Unpublished theses and dissertations, the Constitution, and laws and statutes of the land, the bulletins, circulars, and orders emanating from government offices and departments, especially from the Office of the President of the Philippines, records of schools, public and private, especially reports of their activities, reports from seminars, educational or otherwise. Then, pwede rin sa mga official reports of all kinds ng mga educational, social, economic, scientific, technological, political, etc. from the government and other entities. So, dito yung mga pwedeng maging sources ng RRL ninyo. Okay? So, madami yan. Of course, ulitin lang natin yung na-mention natin kanina, dapat significant sa study yung mga references na makuha ninyo. Okay? So, where to locate sources? Pwedeng sa libraries, either government, school, or private libraries. Pwede rin sa internet research databases. Pwede sa government and private offices. Pwede sa journals. Sa internet, pwede nyo itry yung Google Scholar. May mga previous researches and articles doon. You just type Google Scholar and then itadirect kayo dun sa browser ng Google Scholar. And mayroon pa ding other sources. And of course, dun sa na-mention kanina, marami kayong choices. As long as the reference na makukuha ninyo ay relevant doon sa ginagawa ninyong study. Okay? So, citation of literature studies, meron kayong copy nito, the APA or APA format. Meron kayong copy sa GCR nito. Sinend ko last session, pero pasadahan na din natin para ma-review kayo with this type of formats. Okay? So, make it a habit when you include or use a literature. Aside from citing the study in text, always write the reference at the end of the paper using the APA or APA format. So this will be beneficial because at the end of the paper, you will need to compile all the references, citation that you have used in your study. So may mga groups na nag-submit, yung iba sa kanila ay naka-APA format na, yung iba ay hindi pa. I remember may mga sinabihan ako to cite their references sa baba and also ni-remind ko yung format na kailangan. So eto yon, may copy kayo nito sa GCR natin under course materials, citation and reference, APA format. But yeah, meron din kayo dito sa slide, nilagay ko na din. So, ito ang example ng APA format. So, example, yung research title na kinuha yung reference is Targeted and Perceived Service Quality by Altin Soy G. So, na-publish siya noong 2019, then ito yung nag-publish. So, sa pag gagawa ng reference na ito, ganito yung format na gagamitin niyo. So, yung author, surname niya, and then first letter ng name niya, and then kung kailan na-published, and then ito yung name nung or title ng literature. Always in italic siya, remember that? And then yung last part sa dulo ay kung sino ang nag-publish ng literature. Okay? Remember this format. I-check ko yan pag nagpa-consult kayo. And then, ganito kapag isa ang author. You have two authors. So, here, yung surname, and then first letter ng name, kung may initial na nilagay, lagay nyo din, and then end, yung name ng second author, and then yung first letter ng name, and then if may initial also na nilagay, kung kailan na-published, and then yung title ng literature, in italic, and then, yes, yan. So, pag meron namang three or more authors, so yung surname nung first author na nakalagay and then yung initial ng first name and then et al. Ibig sabihin yan and others. Always written ito in italic ha. And then yung year na na-publish, the literature title, and the publisher. So yan, remember this one. Laging ganito ang paglalagay nyo ng references. Okay? And nasa last page ito ng study or ng activity na pinapagawa ko. So, ito ang example ng RRL. So, gagamitin natin yung RRL from determining perceived service quality as a factor to improve customer satisfaction in the hotel industry. So, ito yung RRL nila. So, kung makikita nyo, yung author ng research na ito or ng study na ito ay sinimulan nila sa pagbibigay ng related literature regarding quality. It's because their study is about perceived service quality. So, they give review of the related literature regarding quality. That's why meron silang ISO dito, International Organization for Standardization. So, yan. Nagbigay sila ng RRL for that. So, in the example above, the authors opened their literature review with quality in relation to hotel industry. Okay. So, this is just an excerpt of their RRL. And then, sa RRL, pwede nyo gawin na per variable. Katulad nito. So, here, binigyan din nila ng RRL, yung variable nila na perceived service quality in the hotel industry. So, yan. Naka-arrange siya per variable. So, meron silang related literature per variable. This proves that um, this proves with the credibility of the research. Kasi may mga review of the related literature sila dito. That proves that the research is viable. So, here, you also have your customer satisfaction kasi part ito nung study nila. Ito, main variable din nila, customer satisfaction. So, binigyan din nila yan. So, in the example above, the authors have gathered literature on customer satisfaction. Note that this is variable in the literature review of the authors is 2 pages long. So, yung buong RRL nila, 2 pages long yon. Kumuha lang ako ng excerpt from certain parts ng RRL nila para magkaroon kayo ng idea kung paano ang RRL. So, kung makikita nyo, meron din ditong citation. Okay? So, lahat yan, mag-a-appear yan sa references nila or nag-appear yan sa references nila. Pwedeng ganito ang gawin nyo sa RRL ninyo, review of the related literature, gawin nyo siyang per variable. Okay? So, yes. Now, let's move on to classifying research designs. So, the objectives first is to identify the classification of research design and to select the best research design for a thesis. So research method, this refers to the philosophical, theoretical, conceptual, and analytical perspective of a research. It can be quantitative, qualitative, or both. Pero sa research ninyo, ang gagamitin natin ay quantitative. Okay? So, approach refers to the first step in creating structure to the design, and it details conceptual model or framework of how the research will proceed, considering the objectives and variables of the study. For the design refers to the plan, the structure, and strategy of investigation so conceived as to obtain answers to research question or problem. So, yan. Nandiyan yung mga methods niyo sa part na ito. Like, paano yung structure, the framework also, then yung plan and strategies nyo sa pagkuha ng mga information or data and how we able to um, conduct the procedure of your research. Okay? So, in this part of the manuscript, sa research design, the researcher has to plan the details of what design to use, what type of data will provide answers to the problem of the study, and how the data will be gathered, presented, analyzed, and interpreted. Again, this example is from the research determining perceived service quality as a factor to improve customer satisfaction in the hotel industry. So dito, sa research design nila, in-explain na nila dito kung paano nila i-conduct yung research. Don't worry, I'll give you a copy of this slide para meron kayong um, reference or guide if you want. So here, sinabi nila na yung research ay quantitative. And then that the researchers use self-administered surveys in form of questionnaire to gather the respondents' primary data. Kung baga dito sa research design, nandito na kung paano nila i-conduct yung research. So, the research methodology connects the study's goals to findings. The purpose of this is to explain and validate the objectives of the research based on the main data collected from the respondents. Okay. So this study seeks to describe a situation generated through the target population's perspective without manipulating the variables but only to measure and to study them. So ibig sabihin nun, they will study the variables or will study the data without being biased. Okay? So they will just measure them to make sure na makuha nila yung tawag dito, yung needed data nila para dun sa research. Okay? So here, so ganyan ang research design. Nakalagay na dyan. Remember here, so in this part, the data will, in-explain na dito kung paano i-gather yung data, kung paano siya na-present, i-analyze and i-interpret. Okay? So, descriptive research design. Descriptive research uses a set of scientific methods and procedures to collect raw data and create data structures that describe the existing characteristics of a defined target population. So, ibig sabihin, systemized siya kapag descriptive research, no? It involves the description, recording, analysis, and interpretation of what it is. So, this research design in descriptive research, this focuses on present condition. So these are valuable in providing facts on which scientific judgment may be based. So here we have a survey. Sino nang nakapagsagot ng survey dito? Okay? So a survey is used when the objectives of the study is to see the general or specific picture of the population or sample under investigation. So yung questionnaire na gagamitin nyo are survey form. Okay? Para makuha niyo yung data and yung numbers na kailangan niyo. So research methods, the methods available for collecting data have been classified into two categories. We have here quantitative research methods and qualitative research methods. Ang gagamitin nyo sa research nyo are quantitative research methods, kaya dito na tayo mag-focus. So quantitative method, quantitative research is the traditional positivist scientific method which refers to a general set of orderly, disciplined procedures to acquire information, di ba? Per order yung paggawa natin. It utilizes deductive reasoning to generate predictions that are tested in the real world. So systematic means that the researcher progresses logically through a series of steps according to a pre-specified plan of action. Yung format niyo. Okay? So, in a quantitative study, some of the commonly used designs are classified by examining them from three different perspectives. So, we have research designs based on number of contacts. First, we have cross-sectional studies or studies a prevalence of a phenomenon by taking the cross-section of population. May sampling techniques tayo for that. We also have here before and after design, studies the measurement of before and after a program, policy, or plan is applied to a specific population. So, yun yung study niya. And then, we have longitudinal study design, studies the pattern of change in relation of time. Okay. Also have here, in a quantitative study, some of the commonly used designs are classified by examining them from three different perspectives. Okay, so number two is research design based on the reference period. So we have retrospective study designs, which studies a phenomenon in the past. Kapag prospective study design naman, it's studies a likely prevalence of phenomenon in the future. Example, epidemic, pandemic. And then we have here retrospective, prospective study design. This studies the trend phenomenon in the past that can be accepted in the future. So the third one is research design based on the nature of investigation. First, we have the experimental design. So ang study na ito, nagpo-focus siya on cost to establish effects. Example, new drug formulations, mga pharmacy, yan. Nagkakaroon tayo ng experimental design that. Non-experimental design is study that focuses on effects to identify the cost. Kung mapapansin niyo 'pag experimental, ang pinag-aaralan mo ay yung cost para ma-establish mo yung effect, makita mo yung effect. 'Pag nag-experimental design naman, nagfo-focus ka dun sa effect para ma-identify mo yung cost. Example nun, the researchers trying to find out the relationship of time spent studying to the actual grades. 'Di ba? So we also have here semi-experimental or quasi-experimental study. Ito naman, mixture ito ng both experimental and non-experimental. So now let's move on to qualities of a good research instrument. The objective is to explain the qualities of a good research. I-discuss din natin yung validity, reliability, and usability. So research instruments, ito yung mga test, questionnaires, rating scales, interviews, observation schedules, and etc., they should meet the qualities of a good research instrument before they are used to study. So these measuring instruments are used to gather or to collect data and are important device because the success or failure of study lies on the data gathered. Okay? So, ito ang ginagamit natin sa pagkuha ng mga data sa ating mga respondents. So, ito yung mga example niya: test, questionnaires, rating scales, interviews, observation. So, sama-sama dito sa quantitative and qualitative. Okay? Pero ang gagamitin natin ay survey questionnaire kasi quantitative yung study natin. So, ito yung gagamitin nyo to gather your primary data, which means that you will give survey questionnaires sa inyong 150 respondents. Okay? Kasi itong mga interviews na to, observations, ano sila, qualitative sila. Pero itong mga survey questionnaires, makukuha niyo yung data dito as well as yung numbers na kailangan niyo. Since quantitative tayo, we're studying the data from a certain sample size or the data from the population. Okay? So yes, gagamitin nyo are survey questionnaire. That will be your research instrument to gather the information sa inyong mga respondents or your target respondents ninyo. So qualities of a good research instrument, we have validity, reliability, and usability. Start natin sa validity. Refers to the degree to which a test or measuring instrument measures what it intends to measure. So the validity of measuring instrument has to do with its soundness, what the test or questionnaire measures its effectiveness, how well it could be applied. So sa validity, um, ang sinasabi lang dito is that your questionnaire or your research instruments accurately measures what it intends to measure. So ano ba yung pinag-aaralan nyo? Tungkol saan ba yung study mo? Tungkol saan ba yung gusto mong makuhang data? So your research instrument should be accurately measures what it intends to measures. Kung anong data yung kailangan mo. Dapat on point yung instrument na gagamitin mo. Okay? Then we have here classification of validity. First, we have content validity. This refers to which the content topic of the test is truly representative of the course. So, pasadahan lang natin siya. And then, congruent validity is the degree to which the test agree or correlates with a criterion set up as an acceptable measure. Then we have predictive validity is determined by showing how well predictions made from the test are confirmed by evidence gathered at subsequent time. And we have construct validity here. is the extent to which the test measures a theoretical construct or trait. Sa study ninyo, hindi nyo naman kailangan i-define mabuti yung part ng validity and reliability, but you have to understand this one kasi gagawa kayo ng instrument nyo for the research instrument. Remember na sa validity, kailangan you measure what your research instrument must measure what it needs to measure. Okay? So, pwede nyo maging guide ito. Then we have here reliability, which means the extent to which the test is dependable, self-consistent, and stable. So, in other words, the test agrees with itself. It is concerned with the consistency of responses from moment from the moment to moment. So, for a while, like, okay, for a while, medyo nag-lag yung internet. Anyway, saan na tayo? Reliability. So, it means that the extent to which the test is dependable, self-consistent, and stable. So, ibig sabihin, the test agrees with itself. So, in reliability, if gagamit ka ng certain scale to measure the same construct multiple times, makukuha mo ba yung the same results every time? Assuming that the underlying phenomenon is not changing. So, example, um, sige, example tayo ng unreliable measurement. Example, yung mga classmates mo, they're guessing your weight, ba? So, quite likely, your classmates will guess differently. Iba-iba yung magiging hula nila dun sa weight mo. So, the different measures will be inconsistent and therefore, the guessing technique of measurement is unreliable. Okay? Nagets niyo ba yun? In your research, kailangan reliable yung mga data natin and yung mga measures na gagamitin natin. Okay? So we have here different methods of testing reliability. First, we have the in-test retest method. So the same test is administered twice to the same group of students and the correlation coefficient is determined. So you're testing the same group of students or same group of individuals twice. That's the test retest methods. We have the parallel forms or equivalent forms method is administered to a group of individuals and the period of observation is correlated. So this is used to assess the consistency of the results of two tests constructed in the same way from the same content domain. Then we have here split half method. Dito naman, this is administered once lang, but the test items are divided into two. So the common procedure is to divide the test into odd and even items. The two halves of the test must be similar but not identical in content. Number of items, difficulty, means, and standard deviations. So next you have the split half method is administered once, but the test items are divided into two. The common procedure is to divide the test into odd and even items. The two halves of the test must be similar but not identical in content. Number of items, difficulty, means, and standard deviations. Then we have here internal consistency. Method is used to psychological test the consist that consists of dichotomous scored items, examining either passes or fails an item. So, in some cases, may mga, ang tawag dito, computation ito, pero sa research nyo, kahit wala na. Just follow my guide kung ano yung mga gagawin yung parts. Okay? Next, you have usability and practicability. So, means the degree to which the research instrument can be satisfactorily used by the teachers, researchers, supervisors, and school managers without undue expenditure of time, money, and effort. In other words, usability means practicability. Okay, so may mga factors ang usability and prac- practicability. So, some are yung ease of administration, ease of scoring, and then ease of interpretation and application, dapat low cost, and proper mechanical makeup. But now, ngayon naman, may mga ano na tayo, other ways to gather data. Example, sa internet, may mga Google Forms na tayo, so pwede na kayong magpadala ng questionnaire to that, and others, okay? So, yes. Then we have here determining the sampling design and size. The objectives is to identify the types of sampling designs and basic level of scale of measurements. So the nature and concept of sampling. So sampling is defined as the method of getting a representative portion of a population. The basic idea about sampling is that by selecting some of the elements in a population, we may draw a conclusion about the entire population. Population, on the other hand, is the aggregate or total of objects, persons, families, species, or order of plants or of animals. It is the total collection of elements about which we wish to make some inferences. Ang sampling, part siya ng population. So, kukuha ka ng sample from the population para makuha mo yung data na kailangan mo for that certain type of population. So population is the totality and then sample is part of this one. Okay? But in your research, each group will have 150 respondents. So yung mga computation in other parts for pagdetermine ng sample size ay hindi nyo nagagawin since sinabi ko na dito na ang bawat grupo ay magkakaroon ng 150 respondents. Okay? So no need to get the sample size or the population. Pasidaan lang natin since part ito ng methodology ninyo. And yung info or yung makukuha yung learnings dito ay pwede nyong gamitin pag pinasulat ko na kayo ng inyong methodology part and instrumentation, data gathering. Okay? So yes. So we have different types of sampling designs. We have probability and non-probability sampling. Sa probability sampling, tinatawag din natin siyang scientific sampling technique. So this is a process of selecting a sample in such a way that all individuals in the defined population have an equal and independent chance of being selected for the sample. So the process of being called as randomization. May iba't ibang types ang probability sampling technique. Meron tayong simple random sampling, systematic sampling, cluster sampling, stratified random sampling, and double sampling. Nandito yan sa module nyo, module 12. Okay, so yes. So here's a probability sampling technique. Um, so each individual na nandun sa certain population, they have an equal and independent chance of being selected para maging sample. Okay? So, para maging sample, merong iba't ibang types nun. Yung sinabi natin kanina, yung mga simple random sampling, you can read your modules for that. And then on the other hand, we have non-probability sampling or non-scientific sampling techniques. So in this technique, the probability of selection of each sampling unit is not known. So therefore, potential sampling error cannot be appropriately known either. The selection of sampling units will be based on some type of intuitive judgment, desire, or knowledge of the researcher. So that's non-probability sampling technique. May mga types din yan. We have the convenience sampling, judgment sampling, quota sampling, and snowball sampling. Read your modules for that, okay? And then, we have here the determining the sample size. Sa pagdetermine ng sample size, ginagamit natin ng Slovin equation. So, here, where n, or the sample size is equal to the population size divided by 1 plus NE squared. N is the population size times E, the margin of error squared. Ang margin of error usually that's 0.05. Sometimes it's 0.03. Anyway, ibibigay naman kung anong margin of error ang gagamitin for researches. So just like what I've mentioned, hindi nyo na kailangan mag-compute ng sample size. It's because all groups will have 150 each na respondent. But yes, pag-aralan pa din natin siya. Okay? So here, so in future years, kapag magkakaroon ulit kayo ng research or baka may balak sa inyong um, postgraduate, so may mga research din doon, and then na-mention yung Slovene equation, so ganito siya. Okay, so alam niyo na siya kung paano siya gawin. Okay? So yes, so this is a sample selection from determine perceived service quality as a factor to improve customer satisfaction in the hotel industry. So here sa sample selection nila, ang study kasi nila, babasahin natin ito, ay ang mga 3-star hotels na nasa ng Baguio City. Okay, so here nagbigay sila ng information regarding dun sa sample nila or sa respondents nila. So yan, since 3-star hotels ng Baguio City ang pag-aaralan nila, nilist nila lahat ng hotels ng Baguio City. So yan. So dyan sila kukuha ng respondents. Dyan yung population nila. Define their sample size. Okay? So kapag pinasulat ko sa inyo yung data gathering nyo, and then pinalagyan ko ng information about your respondents, so pwede ganito yung gawin nyo. So, magbigay kayo ng information regarding your respondents and kung anong classification nila. Example, they're hotel guests ng mga 3-star hotels in Baguio City or they are, ano ba, ah, they are consumers ng certain product na yun or ng certain organization, ganun. Depende yun sa study nyo. So, this is an example. So the nature of measurement. Measurement in research consists of assigning numbers to empirical events in compliance with a set of rules. So scale measurement is the process of assigning a set of descriptors to represent the range of possible responses that a person gives in answering a question about a particular object, construct, or factor. So these process aids in determining the amount of raw data that can be obtained from asking questions and therefore indirectly has impact on the amount of primary information that can be derived from the data. So, nandito na tayo sa pag-gather ng data. Okay, so mina-measure mo na yung mga data mo. Okay? Very important na malaman ninyo ito sa paggawa ng questionnaire din ninyo. Because this will be your guide sa type ng questionnaire na gagawin nyo. So we have basic levels of scales. First, we have the nominal scale. So these are the most basic and they provide the least number of data. They activate the they activate only the assignment scaling property. The raw data do not exhibit relative magnitudes between the categorical subsets of responses. So nominal scale group data in categories or names. Nominal data can include categories like age, gender, religion, ethnicity, yes or no questions, and more. So the main data structures or patterns that can be derived from nominal raw data are in the form of modes and frequency distribution. So sa nominal scale, um, it's a level of scale of measurement ng categories only. Okay? Ito ang example. So, naka-category siya. Sa gender, may male, may female. Yung others dito, it's because their research is inclusive, no? Sinama nila then yung respondents kasi meron silang respondents from the LGBTQ plus and yun. Okay, so yan. Ganito ang example ng nominal scale. Categories lang siya. Pag yung part na to ng questionnaire, they just wanna know kung ilan yung respondents na male, yung female, gano'n. Educational level, secondary, college, postgraduate, civil status, single, married, others. So, yan. Ganito ang example ng nominal scale. So, sabi dito, they provide the least number of data. So, yan. They just classify it. Okay? Per category. So, yan. Then we have here ordinal scale. So, these require respondents to express their feelings of relative magnitude about the given topic. So, ordinal scales activate both the assignment and order scaling properties and allow researchers to create a hierarchical pattern among possible raw data responses or scale points to determine the greater than or less than relationships. So data structures that can be derived from ordinal scales measurements are in the form of medians and range as well as modes and frequency distribution. So yung mga medians, range na yan, modes, frequency distribution, pag-aaralan natin yan next session. Ito ang example ng ordinal scale. So, how was your experience with our product? So, sabi dito, ang respondents ng ordinal scale, they express their feelings of relative magnitude about the topic. So, here. How was your experience with your product? Ito yun. Yung feelings. So, here, sinabi rin that it determined the greater than and less than. So, makikita nyo how was your experience with your product. Ito yung pwedeng answer ng mga respondents. Extremely satisfactory, satisfactory, greater than, the neutral, in less than unsatisfactory or extremely unsatisfactory. So, ganito. Ang example ng ordinal scale. So next we have the interval scale. So the scale measurement allows the researcher to build into the scale elements that demonstrates the existence of absolute differences between each scale point. So normally the raw scale descriptors will represent a distinct set of numerical ranges as responsible responses to a given question. So the interval scale is quantitative as it can quantify the difference between the values. It allows to calculate the mean and median of the variables. Likert scale is an example of interval scale. Very common ang Likert scale sa mga survey and sa mga um, quantitative type of researches. Ito ang example niya. So here, this questionnaire is again from the research perceived service quality. So ito, Likert scale ito. Ganito ang itsura ng Likert scale. So sabi dito, um, so ang scale of measurement nito is to determine the absolute differences between each scale point. So here, sabi dito, please encircle the number of the that corresponds the level of satisfaction with 5 being the highest and 1 being the lowest. So si researcher, pinag-aaralan niya yung difference ng different scale na ito. Different scale point na ito. So yan, may level of satisfaction, dito yung indicator, and then yan. Okay, so ganyan ang example ng Likert scale. So, kumbaga, it's more specific. Okay? So, ganyan siya. Then we have ratio scale. So, these are the only scale measurement that simultaneously activate all four scaling properties. So, they allow researchers to identify absolute differences between each scale point and to make absolute comparison between the respondents' raw responses. So, dito naman, they want to identify absolute differences between each scale point. And they want to make comparisons between yung mga answers ng respondents. So, ganito ang example ng ratio scales. For example, 18 to 25 years old, 26 to 35 years old. This is an example. So, in here, the researchers, they want to study they want to study the data or yung responses ng respondents to make a comparison kung ano ba yung responses nila, yung mga um, based on a certain ratio, 18 to 25, or certain um, scale point, 18 to 25, ano ba yung usual na answers nila, i-compare nila yun sa 26 to 35 years old and such. Okay? So, ganito ang example ng ratio scale. So, for your study, pwede naman kayong gumamit ng mix. Example, yung demographics nyo, gagamit kayo ng nominal scale, demographics ng respondents ninyo, and then yung mismong questionnaire ninyo ay naka-Likert scale. Pwede naman siyang ganun. Combination. Okay? So, depende yan dun sa research ninyo or sa questionnaire ninyo. So, now let's move on to questionnaire. This instrument embodies a set of questions asked in a standardized manner to each participants or respondents, and the researcher or the interviewer ask only questions that are listed on the interview guide or sa inyo in the survey questionnaire type. Okay? So, service evaluations of hotels, restaurants, and transportation providers furnished ready examples of questionnaires. So, sa inyo naka-survey form since quantitative tayo. So, rules in formulating questions. So, first, the purpose must be clearly stated in the instrument formulated. Directions of how to answer the questions must be clear. So, balikan natin yung example kanina. So, ito yung example ng questionnaire nila. Sabi here, directions of how to answer the questions must be clear. So, here, instructions, please encircle the number of that corresponds to your level of satisfaction, with 5 being the highest and 1 being the lowest. Really satisfied. So, malinaw yung instruction. Pag nabasa ng respondents yung instruction ng questionnaire, may intindihan nila agad. Okay? So next, the question must be clear and not ambiguous. Madali siyang maintindihan yung question. Example here, how satisfied are you with the quality of furnitures and fixtures inside your hotel? So malinaw na tinatanong dito kung ano yung tinatanong dito and hindi siya mahirap intindihin. Direct to the point yung question para mas madaling maintindihan ng respondents. In that way, mas magiging accurate din yung answers nila. Okay? And then we have here, the question should be cover only one topic at a time. So here, meron siya. Kung kanina napag-aralan natin, meron siyang mga variables. Dito sa questionnaire niya, nakagroup yung question based dun sa variables. Perceived service quality, so inaaral yung tangibles or tinetest yung tangibles. So yung mga questions directly related to tangibles. So how satisfied are you with the quality of furniture and fixtures inside your hotel room? How satisfied are you with the fixtures and amenities inside your hotel room's comfort room? So puro regarding yan sa tangibles. Okay, so sa next part ng questionnaire, ibang variable naman yung tinetest. So yung questions ay tungkol naman doon sa certain variable. Mas organize yung questionnaire pag ganun, mas easy para sa mga respondents mag-answer and mas easy rin para sa mga researchers na kuhanin yung data na kailangan nila and maintindihan nila yung data na kailangan nila. Okay? So, the question respondents must be in a position to answer the question. So, sino ba yung mga respondents mo? Diba? Sino lang ba? Example, dun sa research ng perceived service quality, guest lang ng mga nagstay sa 3-star hotel sa Baguio City. Which means, yung mga nagstay sa 4-star hotels, hindi sila qualified as respondents. Kasi ang part lang ng study, ang target respondent ng study ay yung mga guest lang na nagstay sa 3-star hotels. Okay? So, another example, ang study mo ay tungkol sa mga, example, tungkol sa vendors ng Intramuros. Yun yung target respondents mo. So, hindi mo pwedeng maging respondents yung vendors ng Tagaytay or ng normal locals lang ng normal na locals ng Tagaytay kasi ang respondents mo, ang target respondents mo ay yung vendors ng Intramuros. Okay? So, sino lang yung target respondents? Sila lang yung mag-answer ng questionnaire. And then, avoid influencing respondents to answer in a particular way. So, dapat your questions are neutral. Hindi siya nag-lean towards positive, di rin siya nag-lean towards negative. Neutral lang. Sample here. How satisfied are you with the quality of furniture and fixtures inside your hotel room? Diba? Neutral yung question. Hindi siya into positive, hindi rin siya into negative. Neutral lang. In this way, mas magigauge natin yung response ng respondents natin. Okay? Since the question is neutral. So, kung ano talaga yung answer nila for that specific question, yun yung isasagot nila. Okay, so next, avoid posing embarrassing questions. Of course, arrange questions in a logical order. The items in the instrument must cover all the variables incorporated in the research proposal. So here, naka-arrange siya per variables. It's easy. It's easy para mas madaling maintindihan ng researchers also. Pwedeng ganito yung gawin nyo, format ng questionnaire para mas madalian kayo and mas madali yung maintindihan. Do not forget to translate the instrument into dialect the respondents are familiar with. Sa atin, English na lang. Pwedeng English na lang. Okay, so yun ang mga rules in formulating questions. Remember class, Na yung questionnaire niyo, ang rule niyo diyan is to get the primary data, or ang goal niyo diyan is to get the primary data from your respondents na makapagbibigay sa inyo ng yung data na yun makakapagbigay sa inyo ng kailangan niyo na information para ma-analyze niyo yung gusto niyong pag-aralan dito sa study niyo. Which means that your variables dapat nandun yun sa data. Ay, nandun yun sa questionnaires. Okay? Dapat maa-answer ng questionnaire yung hypothesis. The same as with your magagamit dapat yung data from the questionnaire to answer your research problem. Okay? So, very important, very crucial ang role ng instrument. Diyan nyo makikita kung magiging successful ba yung research ninyo or yung study ninyo. So, very important na good quality yung research instrument na gagamitin nyo para ma-make sure nyo din na makuha ninyo yung needed information or needed data na kailangan nyo para sa study nyo. Okay? So, okay? Questions? May questions ba kayo? If you have other questions, pwede nyo akong i-message sa GC, pwede nyo akong i-message sa Messenger, or pwede rin naman sa GCR, sige. And yes, kung may mga magpapaconsult ng paper, notify me. Okay, so that's our lesson for today. Have a great day, everyone.